If you've ever looked at your wallet and sighed, or stood at the checkout counter calculating which items to leave behind, you're not alone. Millions of Americans are living in that very moment, every day. According to the latest studies, 6 out of 10 American families cannot afford to maintain a minimum standard of living. A cold number, but behind it are millions of kitchens, living rooms, and sleepless nights of the middle class. But the problem is not evenly distributed. There are states that are falling faster and harder. There, the standard of living plummeted like a slippery slope. The harder they tried to climb, the further they found themselves sliding down. In this video, we'll go through the 10 worst declining states and why places once considered the promised land are now difficult to live in. Where is your state on this map? Let's find the answer together. When people think of Florida, many immediately think of warm sunshine, blue seas, and a retirement lifestyle. But in recent years, this paradise has taken on a very American dark side. Rent is rising faster than your skin can tan on Miami Beach. According to numerous reports, nearly half of Florida households fall into the ALICE or poverty category. It sounds dry, but to make it easier to visualize, out of every 10 families, 4 or 5 families live hand to mouth. And when you look at that number and then see the coastal condominiums constantly springing up, you get the feeling that 2 worlds are coexisting in the same zip code. Rental prices in Florida are skyrocketing. In some places, prices increase by 20–30% after just one contract cycle. Plus, the skyrocketing home insurance premiums, truly like a storm, make even residents who have lived here for decades sigh. People living on pensions, especially older men, are being pushed to the brink like a small boat before a rising tide. What's remarkable is that Florida didn't naturally become expensive. Multiple factors are at play. The home insurance crisis, driven by increasingly severe hurricane seasons, has pushed up reinsurance costs, and the withdrawal of many insurance companies from the state has inflated prices. Domestic immigrants from other expensive states are also driving housing demand faster than new construction can keep up, especially coastal property taxes, which increase with real estate prices, driving up costs, and ultimately, the tenants bear the burden. A system where everyone tries to maintain their own value paradise, and ultimately, the one who pays the price is the person trying to maintain a normal standard of living. Florida used to be cheap. Now Florida is only cheap compared to Hawaii. Some families had to move to Alabama or Georgia, where costs were more manageable. The middle class, which is the lifeblood of the American economy in Florida, is slipping into the ALICE group in just a few years, like an old car losing its brakes on a steep hill. What do you think? Is Florida really expensive? Or is it the workers' incomes that are frozen? And if Florida is a paradise turned sour due to prices, the next state, Hawaii, is even more interesting. Already expensive to begin with, but now increasing to unimaginable levels. You're ready to enter paradise. But is your wallet? If Florida is a paradise of sunny warmth that can turn sour, then Hawaii is a more upgraded version. Here, everything is more beautiful and also more expensive. To the point where many people jokingly say, but it sounds like a lament, Hawaii is not a place to live. It's a place to visit and leave. And you know what's remarkable? Over 40% of households in Hawaii fall into the ALICE or poverty category. That means that out of every 10 families, nearly 4 to 5 families struggle to afford even the most basic necessities. Not luxurious houses, not beachside resorts. It's just electricity bills, gas money, food expenses, very ordinary things. Want to visualize it better? A loaf of sandwich bread costs $5 on the mainland. But in Hawaii, it can be 8 to 9s. A carton of milk is a small thing on the mainland, but in Hawaii, it sometimes feels like buying a museum ticket. gas, food, building materials. Almost everything is 1.5 to 2 times higher. It's not that the people of Hawaii are wasteful. They're just trying to live like normal people. Where does the root of the problem lie after all? Hawaii doesn't have many options. 80–90% of goods are imported, so everything has to go by ship, and shipping costs are never cheap. The Jones Act makes domestic shipping by sea more expensive. Real estate is being driven up in price by out-of-state buyers. Beautiful land is being kept for tourism, and local residents are just watching. An economic structure dependent on tourism makes income seasonal and unstable. A system that operates according to the island's laws. Closed, beautiful, but breathtakingly expensive. Many Hawaiian families have to work 2 to 3 jobs just to pay for basic bills. Many young people leave the island for the mainland to seek a more realistic standard of living. The elderly sighed. It's really beautiful to live on the island. But what if I am no longer beautiful? Ironically, the more perfect paradise looks on a postcard, the more unattainable the cost of living is for the local people. What do you think is the biggest reason why Hawaii is so incredibly expensive? Transportation costs, tourism, or housing prices being pushed too far beyond income? And if Hawaii is expensive because of its closed-off nature, then the next state, West Virginia, is caught in a downward spiral because of an industry that opened a century ago but is withering day by day. Let's go there together. If Hawaii is expensive because of the rules of paradise, West Virginia is trapped in a different story. As the state's only source of life gradually dries up, everything around it dries up too. Not the sea, not tourism, but coal. What once brought prosperity to the entire region is now just coal, dust, clinging to shoes aged by the passage of time. I once heard a miner in his 50s say this: "We don't need any more promises. We need jobs. But the job is gone." A short sentence. But the weight was like the sound of a drill in a mine, echoing and painful. Many people say West Virginia isn't free-falling. They fall slowly but surely. West Virginia has the lowest median income in the eastern United States. The percentage of households below the ALICE threshold is high, meaning many people don't have enough money to live at a minimum level, even though the cost of living here is not as expensive as in coastal states. Doesn't that sound paradoxical? No wonder. When income stagnates, everything becomes expensive. The state's population is constantly decreasing, year by year, town by town. Main street shops are closing, and houses are for sale with "for sale" signs that no one buys. As the coal industry declines due to the energy transition, the replacement jobs don't offer an equivalent salary. Young people are leaving the state to seek opportunities, creating a brain drain. A state where the future leaves by bus and the past is left behind in the Appalachian valleys. The elderly live on subsidies. The remaining young workers are scrambling between low-paying jobs, unable to save enough. Prices in West Virginia aren't rising as quickly as in Florida or Hawaii, but that's the problem. Prices are rising slowly, and incomes are rising even more slowly. It's like standing on an escalator going the wrong way. If you don't run, you'll fall. And if you do run, you'll still fall. Ironically, West Virginia wasn't hit by the storm. What do you think is harder? Living in a place that's too expensive, or living in a place where there are no jobs left to hold on to? And if West Virginia is declining due to a lack of new industries, the next state, Colorado, faces the opposite problem. New industries, new people. But prices are rising so quickly that native residents are struggling to keep up. We're going to Colorado. It may sound paradoxical, but Colorado is one of the states with high median income and a stable growing economy. Yet tens of thousands of families are living in RVs, old trucks, or temporary campsites on the outskirts of the city. Nature is beautiful, it truly is. But the new economy has made beauty an invisible tax. Housing here has increased in price by double digits for several years in a row. Areas like Denver, Boulder, and Colorado Springs, which were once affordable, have now become mini auctions every time a house goes on the market. Rent, increasing steadily like a heartbeat when climbing a mountain slope. Childcare, healthcare, and insurance costs are all among the highest in the country. Middle-income earners feel like they're playing a game of chess where their opponents are housing prices, gas prices, insurance prices, and they're gradually losing with each move. Colorado is not declining because of poverty. It's going downhill because too many people want to live here. The wave of tech workers moving from California with their high incomes is driving up real estate prices. The supply of affordable housing is not expanding quickly enough. Urban areas have strict planning regulations and limited land development, leading to a situation where demand far exceeds supply. A rapidly developing economy, but the housing model is developing very slowly. As a result, the locals were knocked out of the game right on their home turf. Many families have to move far from the city to be able to rent or buy a house. But living far away means more driving, higher gas prices, and overall higher costs. Many people joke, but it sounds like the truth. I'm not leaving Colorado because I don't like it. I got rid of it because it didn't fit in my wallet anymore. And when the middle class, the social balancing force, had to leave, Colorado became a truly beautiful place, but no longer livable. What do you think makes it harder for the middle class? Uncontrolled house price increases or stagnant incomes due to a fragmented labor market? And if Colorado raises prices because of the influx of people, the next state, Louisiana, faces a double blow: harsh nature and an unstable economy. Another story, but the pressure is no less. Let's go to Louisiana together. Louisiana has a completely different story. Here, poverty doesn't come alone. It always holds the hand of natural disasters, and they both dance the same repetitive dance year after year. Many people in Louisiana say a sentence that sounds both true and heavy. Here, you don't ask if a hurricane is coming. You just asked when it will arrive. A week after a major storm, people lined up in front of ATMs just to withdraw. Louisiana has nearly half of its households below the ALICE threshold, meaning half the state is struggling to afford a basic standard of living. And while income didn't increase much, homeowners insurance, which is mandatory in hurricane-prone areas, increased so sharply that many families had to choose not to renew. Prices here aren't increasing quietly. It rose as if the storm not only blew off the roof, but also blew away the wallet. What led Louisiana to this situation? Perhaps it started with a series of strong storms that drove up reconstruction costs, causing insurance to increase and further raising the cost of living. The oil and gas industry, once a pillar, no longer holds the same role as before. The replacement jobs are mainly low-paying and don't keep up with inflation. Louisiana is like an old boat. Waves crash from the outside. Water leaks from the inside. No matter how well you row, the boat will still get heavier. Low-income earners not only face rising costs, they also face more risks: weak housing, poor repair capabilities, and precarious employment after natural disasters. Many families work 2 to 3 jobs and still don't earn enough to meet the minimum cost threshold. Some people joke in a deep voice. In Louisiana, the hurricane season changes, but income doesn't. And in that context, becoming middle class is no longer the goal. It's like a dream that's getting further away, obscured by the dark clouds of insurance premiums, taxes, and reconstruction costs. What do you think makes Louisiana harder to recover? Constant natural disasters, or an economy that is too dependent on a declining industry? Because even though Louisiana still has the oil and gas industry to rely on, the next state, Mississippi, doesn't have as many pillars of support. That's where even cheap prices can't save living standards. Let's go to Mississippi together. Many people in Mississippi say, half jokingly, that Mississippi isn't falling behind. It just stood still while the whole country was moving forward. The phrase sounds light, but it accurately describes the feeling of being left behind by the times. Mississippi consistently ranks among the most affordable states for cost of living. A house can be much cheaper than in other states. But the problem lies here. Over 52% of households are below the ALICE threshold, the highest in the United States. This means that more than half the state cannot afford a minimum standard of living. Even the housing and goods are already low-priced. It sounds like buying a cheap used car, but the engine is so weak it won't run. Cheap loses its meaning when your wallet doesn't grow. The median income in Mississippi is among the lowest in the country, and when salaries remain stagnant, everything, even if it's cheap, becomes a burden. Mississippi doesn't have many high-paying industries. Most jobs come from services, small-scale manufacturing, or unskilled labor. The economy is not very diverse, making it difficult to achieve a breakthrough. A weak healthcare system leads to rapidly increasing medical costs, severely impacting low-income individuals. No key industries, no large capital flows, no economic drivers. Mississippi is like a ship without wind. It doesn't sink immediately, but it doesn't go far either. Many families working 2 to 3 jobs still can't get above the minimum wage. Children grow up with fewer opportunities, and the cycle continues. The elderly struggle with medical costs. The young leave the state seeking other opportunities, leaving behind an increasingly aging and weakened Mississippi. Someone once said, "In Mississippi, people aren't poor because they spend unwisely. People are poor because they have nothing left over to spend." A sentence that sounds sad, but is true. Mississippi isn't as bustling as Florida, as expensive as Hawaii, or as dilapidated as West Virginia. It's quiet, but that very quietness is what's most concerning. What do you think has held Mississippi back for so many years? A lack of good jobs, or a lack of motivation for development? And if Mississippi is the bottom of the slowdown, the next state, Texas, is an interesting paradox. A place of great opportunity, but where the standard of living is still slipping out of reach. We're going to Texas. Leaving Mississippi, where poverty quietly persists, we entered Texas, a land called the Land of Opportunity, a cheap paradise, a gateway for the middle class. But that was Texas, of 10-15 years ago. Texas is different now, better in many ways, but also harder to live in, unless you're in the high-income bracket. A Dallas resident once said a simple but profound sentence. Texas used to be cheap. Now, Texas is cheap, compared to California. But that doesn't help me pay the rent. Texas doesn't have a personal income tax. That sounds really appealing. But in return, property taxes in many areas are among the highest in the country, especially in Dallas, Houston, and Austin. House prices also increased significantly because people were moving in from other expensive states. This creates a paradox. Wages are rising slowly, rent is increasing rapidly, and finally, the Texas middle class is once again having to spend a large portion of their income just to keep a roof over their heads, quite literally. Home insurance? Any Texan knows it rises as steadily as the outdoor temperature in summer. Not noisy, not shocking, but enough to make many families shake their heads. The reason Texas is in this situation likely stems from its rapid growth, which its infrastructure couldn't keep up with. This area is already an attractive destination. Technology, manufacturing, healthcare. There are enough industries to create jobs. The population increased rapidly within a decade. A large influx of people from California and New York moved in, pushing housing demand far beyond construction capacity. Additionally, many areas experience extreme weather. prolonged heat, unusual storms, and local flooding, all of which increase the cost of home insurance and maintenance. Texas is like a free open-air stadium, until everyone rushes in, making seats more expensive than ever. Many Texas families are spending 40–50% of their income just to cover housing costs and property taxes. In a state that was once a symbol of financial freedom, this comes as a rather painful blow. In your opinion, is Texas becoming expensive because of rapid growth, or because middle-class incomes haven't kept pace with the times? And while Texas still has plenty of job opportunities to hold on to, the next state, Arkansas, is different. Being both cheap and poor is a double blow that people find hard to escape. We're heading to Arkansas next. Arkansas. A state that many people look at and say, "Oh, this place is cheap, easy to live." But the truth is, sometimes ironic. Cheap doesn't mean easy to live with. In Arkansas, cheap is sometimes just a pretty exterior, while inside is a reality that forces people to scrape by on every penny. Arkansans often say, half-jokingly, "Cheap doesn't help when your wallet is cheaper." A sentence that sounds gentle, yet touches the hearts of tens of thousands of families here. Arkansas has a lower cost of living than the average. Some things are definitely more pleasant than in Texas or Colorado. But then you look at the median income, among the lowest in the country, and everything immediately reverses. That's why the percentage of households in the Alice group is high, meaning many people don't have enough money to afford a minimum standard of living. Even the supermarket prices might make out-of-state visitors think it's easier to live here. Healthcare costs are rising rapidly, especially in rural areas where hospitals are closed or operating with limited capacity. And anyone who lives in rural America understands, just one emergency room visit is enough to throw a family's finances off track for the entire year. Arkansas is not lacking in friendliness, beautiful land, and close-knit communities. But the economy isn't as broad-based as that. Many jobs are in the low-wage category: retail, personal care, basic services. A lack of strong investment in infrastructure and education makes it difficult to attract high-paying industries. Geographic dispersion concentrates good opportunities in a few major cities, leaving the majority of the population behind in rural areas. Arkansas is like a house with a beautiful porch, but a weak foundation. It looks peaceful, but just one heavy rain reveals the problems. In Arkansas, many families are not statistically poor, but they also cannot be called firmly middle class. A medical expense, a job loss, a minor accident, all can push them straight into the Alice group. This isn't the poorest part of the country, but it has the highest risk of decline. Which do you think is harder to overcome? The high cost of living, or income that's too low to keep up with the times? And if Arkansas is the tragedy of being cheap and still poor, the next state, California, is the complete opposite paradox. Rich, but still struggling. A golden dream is slowly cracking. Let's go to California together. California, the symbol of the American dream. Where the sun is beautiful, the beaches are long, technology is advanced, life is modern, and also where you can earn $100,000 a year and still feel like you're just chasing bills. A resident here once said, "In California, $100,000 doesn't buy you a feeling of wealth. It only buys you the right to survive." California has the second highest housing prices in the United States, and the cost of living increases steadily each year. Rent in Los Angeles or San Francisco is enough to make a middle-class family think twice about every cup of morning coffee. Alice, the group that doesn't have enough money for a minimum standard of living, continues to grow, even though the average income in California looks good on paper. In other words, you can earn a lot, but your standard of living doesn't increase proportionally. California has no shortage of good jobs, technology, or opportunities. But high taxes force many families to recalculate their monthly spending. Strict housing planning and a shortage of new homes are driving up housing prices in line with demand. Service and business operating costs are among the highest in the country. And salaries, even though they are high, still haven't kept pace with the rate of price increases. California is like a fancy party. Beautiful lights, good music, lots of guests. But the bill sent home is so long it takes your breath away. Hundreds of thousands of people have left California in recent years to seek a more realistic cost of living. Many middle-income families are choosing Texas, Arizona, and Nevada as their new destinations. Small businesses face high operating cost pressures, leading to contraction or relocation. One of the richest places in the country also has a large percentage of people struggling with a minimum standard of living. In your opinion, is it worth living in a place with high income, but even higher expenses? Because if California is the paradox of wealth yet still struggling, then the final state, Arizona, is the clearest example of the fastest rising essential costs in the US, where living standards are visibly declining year after year. Let's go to Arizona together. At the bottom of the list, we find Arizona, once considered an easy place to live, a retirement paradise, and a cheap desert. But in the past few years, the story has reversed roles. The desert is still hot, the sky is still blue, but life is no longer cheap in the desert. According to multiple reports, Arizona's Alice Essentials Index increased by 10.4%, which is among the highest in the nation. To put it simply, basic necessities like electricity, water, food, and gasoline are increasing so rapidly that when you open your next month's bill, you wonder, did I leave the air conditioning on all night to bake bread? Home prices also rose sharply as people leaving California poured in, pushing buying and rental prices to new heights. Arizona has gone from being cheap to becoming increasingly cheap, and it won't be cheap anymore. What makes Arizona difficult to live in? Not only because of population growth, but also due to a double impact. Record-breaking heat leads to high electricity demand, which in turn increases electricity costs. Water stress in the Colorado River also increases the cost of operating and maintaining water infrastructure. There is a shortage of affordable housing because the rate of new construction cannot keep up with the population. Insurance costs also increase as the climate becomes more unpredictable. Arizona is like a house that used to be cool, but now you have to run the air conditioning so strong that electricity bills make up half of your living expenses. Those who once moved here to live on their pensions now have to count every penny. Electricity costs increase due to the prolonged heat wave. Home insurance is increasing due to climate change. House prices are rising due to demand. Result: a place that was meant for leisure is becoming a place where you have to calculate every expense. And now, the biggest question. If Arizona is number one today, who will be number one in 5 years? Because the cost of living is rising faster than the weather, and no state is immune. Looking back at the 10 states on today's list, we see something simple but deeply touching. The cost of living isn't just about money. It's a story about quality of life, about safety, about whether a family can breathe in an era where everything is increasing except income. Each state in this video has a different cause, but the common point is very clear. More and more Americans cannot afford a minimum standard of living, even though they still work hard every day. Now I'd like to hear your opinion. Which state do you live in, and how do you feel about the cost of living pressure? In your opinion, which state will decline the fastest in the next 5 years, and why? Please share in the comments section below. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like to support quality content, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next perspectives on the American economy and society. And a small note, all the information in the video is based on publicly available reports, analyses, and figures. This is not financial, investment, or absolute prediction advice. The sole objective is to help you understand the bigger picture of American life today. See you in the next video.